More than 23,000 dead over the last 4 years. Mexican President Felipe Calerone's war on drug cartels has transformed one major Mexican city into the murder capital of the world. In Ciudad Juarez, a city of 1.3 million people, there were over 2,500 murders last year. Ray Walser is with the Heritage Foundation.
The world's most dangerous city, a killing ground of unimaginable proportion.
Across the country so far this year, over 5,200 murders as the drug cartels go after each other while fighting federal, state, and local security forces. Vanda Felba-Brown is with the Brookings Institution.
Increasingly, they are engaging in very brazen attacks on the state, attacking military stations, attacking police stations.
This all started when Felipe Calderone was elected president in 2006 for one 6-year term. For years, Mexico allowed the cartels to operate with relative impunity. In return, the cartels stayed out of local politics. But soon the cartels were hand-picking their own politicians, and Calderone decided to end this so-called deal with the devil.
The devil at some point stopped being obedient and said, now I dictate the terms.
There are a number of cartels vying for control of the illegal drug industry in Mexico, especially in cities such as Juarez, perched on the border with the United States. Estimates are that 70% of foreign narcotics end up in the U.S.
Anywhere from $30 to $60 billion is the amount of money sort of generated by the drug trade with Mexico annually.
It used to be that Colombian drug cartels produced and delivered most of the cocaine, running the stuff across the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico to distribution centers in the United States. But in the early 1990s, the U.S. and Colombia brought down a lot of these organizations, leaving the door open for their Mexican counterparts.
Now it's about 90% of the cocaine that comes into the United States now comes in up through Mexico.
There are anywhere from 5 to 7 major cartels in Mexico. A firm number is hard to come by, as these cartels and smaller drug gangs are in almost constant flux.
There's a tremendous amount of internal infighting going on with factions splitting off, maybe later being incorporated, taken back over.
But all these groups are linked by their apparent willingness to commit horrendous acts of brutality.
There's a cult of violence, I think, that develops inside the cartels that lead them to try to exceed themselves in their sort of barbarity.
In many ways, there is, in my view, competition in brutality right now.
This epidemic of violence in Mexico would not be possible without the apparent ease with which drug gangs get their hands on weapons. As billions of dollars worth of drugs flow north, millions of dollars worth of guns flow south. Eduardo Medina Mora Icaza is a former Mexico Attorney General.
I would say above 95% are coming from the U.S.
There are some 12,000 gun dealers along the U.S.-Mexico border. Bill Newell is a special agent with the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms.
If you were to go into a gun store and buy 20 of these, there is no requirement by the gun dealer to fill out a multiple sales form.
There are some 50,000 federal troops and police fighting the cartels, but corruption is a huge problem. Cartels offer large amounts of money to feds and cops who are under the constant threat of death if they don't cooperate.
And in the context of such extraordinary levels of violence against police and their families, it's very difficult to break out of the hold of corruption.
In recent state and local elections in Mexico, President Felipe Calerone's PAN party held its own against the opposition PRI party. The PRI party was booted from power 10 years ago after more than 70 years of one-party authoritarian rule. But PRI hopes to regain the presidency in 2012, and that could very well happen if President Calderone's war on the drug cartels continues to breed such prolific violence.
It will be very difficult to sustain the political support among the other parties and among the public.
American diplomats have been killed in Mexico recently, and the violence has crept over the border into the United States. The U.S. now considers the Mexican drug cartels one of the major national security issues now facing the country. Why? Now you know.